What affects how a person perceives a societal issue? Is it who they are in society, meaning their ethnicity, their gender, their age? Or is it their financial status, meaning whether they're wealthy or poor? What makes someone sensitive to a topic? Personally, I believe that it's a culmination of everything that I just mentioned. Who someone is affects what kind of a lens that they view other people through. For example, if someone is wealthy and well-educated, they may not be knowledgeable about the problems that are affecting those living in poverty. On the other hand, if someone is living in that kind of an environment, they'll be a lot more perceptive and sensitive to the same issues. I'm here today to talk about these problems and bring light to these troubles. Specifically, I would like to talk about the problem of environmental racism, which is an issue that stems from poverty in certain ethnic groups. I'd like to talk about the depth, the extent, and the pervasiveness of this issue in our society today. Now, as I'm standing on this stage talking to all of you, I'm sure at least half of the people in this crowd have never heard of the term environmental racism before. I'm sure a lot of you haven't even heard of the umbrella term environmental injustice before. So before I continue on with my talk, I would like to define these words for you. Environmental racism is a term that describes environmental injustice in a racialized context in both practice and policy. What this means, basically, is that if someone is from a certain ethnic background, like if they're African American or Hispanic, then they'll face greater environmental injustices than others. This can be seen with inadequate access to healthy food, clean water, transportation, all as a result of water pollution, air pollution, or even climate change as a whole. Research shows that half of the American population lives close to hazardous locations. This can be seen with the example of African Americans. African Americans make up 13% of the U.S. population, and 68% of them live within a 30-mile radius of a coal-fired power plant. This can be contrasted with the 56% of white Americans who live in the same regions. Living in these regions can also cause several damaging health effects. In African American children, asthma is rampant. 13.4% of African American children suffer from asthma. On the other hand, only 7.4% of white children suffer from the same issues. Environmental racism is a massive issue in our society today, and it's something that spans across multiple dimensions. This is Leanne Walters. She is a mother of 4 living in Flint, Michigan. She originally moved here with the expectation, just like any other family, of having a clean home, a proper public work system, and access to a healthy environment. However, 1 year after living here, she noticed one of the most terrifying things for a mother. Her 5-year-old son had stopped growing. He remained at a stagnant 35 pounds. His twin brother, also 5 years old, had also stopped growing, remaining at a stagnant 56 pounds. She noticed that her 14-year-old son was complaining of headaches, dizziness, rashes. She would hear his screams of pain. Those sounds have to be one of the most frightening things for a parent, especially not knowing why it's happening, how a parent can help fix it, and what's causing it. She has now become an environmental activist to fight against some of these issues. She asks the questions, why was this issue in society for so long? Why was there no change? Now, you might think that the health problems in her children were a coincidence. Maybe it was a health bug, something like a flu that lasted a little bit too long, but no. This was the direct product of environmental racism. Flint, Michigan is one of the most famous examples of environmental racism. The water pipes here had been contaminated with lead, making the water that the people consumed toxic. If you consumed it, you were damaging your health. However, going back to the question, why was this change left in society? Why was this issue left unchanged in society for so long? Well, the answer is fairly simple: racism. Flint is 56% black, and 40% of the population lives under the poverty line. This means that they didn't have access to the means that would get them the help that they needed to fix their society. Now, you can take a second and imagine if this was a society filled with wealthy white people. Maybe you can argue, yes, the problem would have existed, but it's unarguable that it wouldn't have lasted for as long as it did in Flint, Michigan. If it was in a wealthy white society, it would have been solved almost instantly, never exceeding more than a couple months. However, Flint, Michigan lasted for several years. Personally, I think that the case is appalling. Your health being discriminated against to the point where your health is being threatened is not okay. Now, maybe you've heard of the case of Flint, Michigan before, but there are several other examples across the United States as well that exemplify environmental racism, one of which being Cancer Alley, Louisiana. Here, toxins in the water and air make it 50% more likely for a resident of Cancer Alley to get cancer than the average American. Why? Most of the population here is black. Another example is in Piyali, Florida, where sugarcane farmers burn their fields to help them harvest their crops. The smoke from the fires rises and travels to the neighboring communities, being very dangerous for the people that live nearby. The kinds of people that live nearby are, again, from these minority groups. People in Piyali, Florida are black. Another example is in Cheraw, South Carolina, where cancer-causing PCBs were dumped in a creek and toxins were found in a children's playground. Why? This is, again, a location heavily populated by minority groups. Now maybe you've heard of some of these, but there are several other examples across the United States as well, like Uniontown, Alabama, the Bronx, New York City, Los Angeles, California, Houston, Texas, and Warren County, South Carolina, just to name a few. Now, here's a simple flowchart that connects the points between racism, health, and the environment. So, as I mentioned before, it starts off with who a person is. If someone is black, white, Hispanic, American, Asian, it all affects what kind of help that they receive and the kind of issues that they're faced with. The second factor is how educated they are and what their income level is. If someone doesn't know about what issues are affecting them, how are they going to ask for help? If their income level is low, they might not have the financial means to gain the help that they need. Additionally, the last factor on the bottom row here is whether or not they have access to a government official that can help them. If you don't have a higher up that you can contact that can get you help, you're going to be stuck in the same situation for as long as it takes to get access to one of those people. The next level is whether or not your environment is actually clean or toxic. Obviously, I've been talking a lot about living in a toxic environment like that of Flint, Michigan, or Cancer Alley, Louisiana, and the people living here, again, are black, and so they continue to live in these toxic environments. If your environment is clean, you are likely white, well-educated, and have access to government officials. The last tier is whether a person is healthy or sick. All the factors below affect this problem. If you are living in a toxic environment, chances are you're not going to be healthy. However, if you are living in a clean environment, chances are you are going to be healthy. So I've been talking a lot about the issues of environmental racism trying to spread education. However, what is something that you can do? Obviously, I'm not going to ask each and every one of you to go to the front lines and fight in Flint, Michigan, or Cancer Alley, Louisiana, advocating against environmental injustice. However, as a human, in your own societies, you can work to bring awareness, be educated, and share what you've learned. It's important to spread knowledge and simply just be aware. That's all I ask of you. Thank you.